think it has started. Give me a second. Perfecto.
Oh, we're live already.
Great.
Oh, we captured that. Nice.
Brilliant. Okay. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So, everyone watching live, please let us know if at all we are audible, clearly visible, so that we can be sure there are no technical issues.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Aditya Shrestri, and I welcome you to the first episode of Digital Pulse Live. Through Digital Pulse Live, I would be interviewing nomads, entrepreneurs, and marketers who could help you explore and achieve the digital lifestyle. Today, we have Avinash and Ruchika from Second Breakfast. They started their digital nomad journey around 3 years ago and have managed to explore around 16 countries in the last 3 years. Avi was an active aspirant of the Indian startup ecosystem, while he currently freelances for a lot of startups around the world. Ruchika was a lawyer before she started exploring her creative side. She changed her career path to writing blogs, social media marketing, and currently into filmmaking. Currently, they make their travel videos on their YouTube channel and work online to sustain their lifestyle. Thank you, Avi and Ruchi, for joining us. So let's get started with this conversation. But before that, so Avi and Ruchi, can you please help us with what was your career before you started off with the digital nomad journey?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Aditya. We've been looking forward to this live. We have been planning to do a live on digital nomadism because we have been on the journey for 3 years now. But this is a great start. Thanks for the invite.
Okay.
Before we started digital nomading, I was working with remote teams around the world. So I was already used to working from coffee shops. And that's where I got the taste of how life could be if we actually went remote and be a digital nomad full time. We did have the startup I used to work with did have a office in Bangalore, but that was a very small period of time. But for almost 6 to 7 years, our startup was completely remote. So we used to work from coffee shops and co-working spaces. And this was like way before digital nomadism was big in India. This was like 2010,
Okay.
2011. Uh,
Wow.
so
Around a decade ago. Yeah.
yeah, it was already, it's still fun, but it was way more fun back then because nobody else was doing it. So you didn't actually find so many people working from like Starbucks, which is our de facto office.
Got it. Got it.
What were you up to, Ruchi?
And
So I was a lawyer. I used to work with, at first, I started out working with companies on IPR and copyright issues, and then I moved to indirect taxation, which was not fun at all. And then I started working for a startup law firm in Canada. It was just me and my boss, just two of us. I used to work from India, and he was in Canada, of course. And we were consulting with early stage Canadian startups. So I got a real insight into the
Okay.
international startup space as well as Canadian law. And I was working remote, and that's when I met him. And I used to just
Wow,
work out
nice.
of home, or maybe like visit friends in Delhi or Bangalore. But then when I met him, I realized you can actually just live out of Vietnam or Bali when you don't need an office. Why do you have to be in India? And slowly we started saving up money. I didn't see myself growing more in the legal space as a remote person, so I decided to pursue something that I'm more interested in. So I started by blogging for law firms, developing websites,
Okay.
blogging for law firms, and then I slowly moved on to other companies, and now I'm focused on YouTube full time.
Nice. Nice. I mean, do you think the kind of profile where which you were is not suitable for a digital lifestyle? Basically, the lawyer profile.
Yeah, I think so. Unless your firm or your company is completely set up for working remote legally, which I think
Mm-hmm.
in like a pandemic, we are seeing that law firms are able to function very well remotely. But the thing is that you have to have these in place. You can't suddenly expect some big company to start learning how remote works. They
Got it.
Lawyers are still a very traditional industry where it's considered very normal to stay till 10, 9 in the night and stuff. So I don't think everyone is there in the remote space yet, but for startups, I think slowly they will start. However, there is
Got
like
it.
an individual aspect to it. If you are consulting as an individual, or if you have a team of 2 or 3 people, you can be remote, and it helps a lot because we we could function 24 hours, because when it was nighttime in Canada, I would take over. So we were able to respond to clients and be functional 24 hours, which is a great advantage without losing sleep.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. So, Avi, I mean, you said your previous startup was actually remote even nearly around a decade ago. So, I mean, did you attend certain events where you developed these connections with remote workers at that point of time?
When we started out, there was not much remote companies at all. The only companies which I knew were remote back then, this is 2010
Mm-hmm.
and 2011, was, I mean, they were not totally remote, but they promoted remote culture, which was Basecamp, which was called 30 Signals back then, who are
Mm-hmm.
today are a huge proponent of remote work, written
Hmm.
a book
Got it.
called Remote. So explaining how to go about it. But we were
Mm-hmm.
kind of um, so we were kind of forced into being remote in the sense that we only worked from an office for the first 3 months of our
Okay.
startup journey, and then we got into Startup Chile, which is a
Startup.
startup program run by the government of Chile, where
Mm-hmm.
basically they will give you $40,000 for your startup, but the caveat is you have to go to Chile and work from Chile for 6 months. So it was a way
Okay.
of
Okay.
way for the Chilean government to put encourage entrepreneurship in Chile, which
Mm-hmm.
worked. 10 years from it's been the program is running for 10 years now. It's known as
Okay.
one of the startup hubs because of Startup Chile program. We were in the second
Mm-hmm.
batch, so we went to Chile, and then we had to evolve our processes so that we can be remote, and we have been remote since then. I mean, I've moved on
Okay.
from
Okay.
that startup now, and I've been freelancing, but I've been essentially remote for the last 8, 9 years. So there were no
Wow.
conferences
Nice.
and stuff back then. Not many
Mm-hmm.
people were doing remote back then.
Okay.
We were one of the early adopters of the whole concept.
So transitioning from a corporate job to remote work and digital nomad was easy for you.
I never had a corporate job.
Okay. So you have been freelancing and a remote worker from a
Uh,
decade or so.
After college, I I basically the startup scene was just starting out in Bangalore. Fortunately,
Mhm.
I got introduced to it somehow by chance because I was in Mysore, which didn't have the same exposure to startups as Bangalore. But somehow,
Okay. Okay.
over Twitter, I think somehow I got connected to
Mhm.
someone in the startup scene in Bangalore, and that's how I came to know startup scene in Bangalore, which was just starting out. Like Flipkart didn't have anything back then, just like one page website where um, people I know were doing SEO for Flipkart. So it's that kind of a stage in the Indian startup scene, basically. So I got introduced then. So
Wow.
I've been
Nice.
in startups ever since. I've never worked for a corporate company. So it's a
Okay.
little bit different from the traditional path of how people move from corporate to startup to remote or freelancing.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. Got it. So when you guys started off around 2016, right? 2016 or 2017?
2016
2016
end.
November.
Yeah, November.
Okay. Nice. So it's been around 3 years already. So, I mean, what are the steps which you took so that you would have to leave your belongings, the place you stay? I mean, how was that change? How
So
did you guys start off
we
planning that?
were pretty much planning this, I think, maybe a year before we started,
Yeah, here in
a
India.
year or year and a half. So we were like conscious of the fact that we are not going to buy too many things or spend too much money taking short trips here and there. Like a 1 week, 2 week trip to Europe will set you back by almost 75,000 to 1.5 lakhs. So we decided we'll not take short trips and we'll save up money on
Okay.
not buying furniture or not buying any non-essentials for the house or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. And we were able to save up enough money in like 2 years to kickstart, like of course it will not last you more than a few months, the savings. You can't rely on savings for your nomad journey, but it just was a nice
Mm-hmm.
backup to have.
Yeah,
Got it.
there are two aspects to it. One aspect, what Ruchi mentioned. The second aspect is like you cannot go nomad without figuring out work.
Yeah.
Like as she said, savings will not take you a long way. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to basically set up your like work so that you have freelance gigs and like income sources. I had my side set, but she had to figure out her side going from lawyer to a new career option. So we needed some time for us to figure that out, basically.
Got it. Got it. Makes
So if
sense.
it was a
Super.
sabbatical, I think you can rely on savings, because if you're just taking a break, even if it's a 1 year long break, I think if you have the right savings, you will be fine. But if you cannot plan how you're going to make money on the go, which doesn't tie you to one place, I think that is very important to
Yeah.
find.
Otherwise, this lifestyle is very
Yeah.
hard to pull off unless you're already a millionaire.
Got it. And, see, for achieving such a kind of lifestyle and also the sustainability, it requires multiple sources of income or dependency, right? I mean, how do you guys plan for such a thing?
Um, until in the first year and year and a half of basically our journey, we knew we couldn't make money from blogs, or like the YouTube channel was not even in the works back then. We just were concentrating on blogs,
Okay.
and we knew it's going to
Mm-hmm.
take a long time to get any ROI or sustainability just from writing blogs or creating travel content. We were pretty sure that we wanted to do travel content even before we started off. It was not something which we decided after we started. So we started off with
Okay.
the travel content before itself, but it was not YouTube. We were just doing blogs back then. So
Okay.
we
Okay.
so we knew that we need other sources of income until our content business can take off. Uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
so so we used to freelance. I used to freelance in code, and Ruchi used to freelance in writing. And then we freelanced for an year and a half before we realized, okay, we should move into YouTube.
Okay. 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 Got it. Perfect. So, how do you usually plan your trips? I mean, is there a set process in terms of research? accommodation, etc.? I mean, how do you come up with your next destination?
So usually we see most for us the next destination is whatever is nearby. That would be the most obvious destination because that if you're traveling every 2 months, then uh, it saves a lot on flight money if you can do some countries in that region. So the first 2 years, as you know, we were traveling in Asia mostly. So Asian visas are like maybe 2 months, or only Vietnam gives 3 months actually. So
Okay.
we plan our trips based on visa. So the first thing we would research is the visa, and then we would look at the flight prices. Um, More or less in Asia, you have to do a lot of visa runs. Like if you've spent 1 month in Thailand, then you have to exit and then come back. So,
That's 15 days.
yeah. Um, and if you want to stay 2 months in Thailand, you have to apply for a visa from India with all your paperwork. You can't do visa on arrival for 2 months. So we would have to look into those aspects. How much does visa cost? What do you need to apply for visa? Whether you need to be in India to apply for a visa. So visa and the duration that you can stay would be our first choices.
Yeah.
And then we also look at
Mm-hmm.
the cities where there is a digital nomad community. Sometimes it's a hit and sometimes it's like turns out really badly. Like for example, Bangkok's digital nomad community is still upcoming. There's a lot of interesting people to meet, both locals and foreigners doing some fun things. But the visa situation allows you to be in Bangkok for only 2 months. So that would not allow you to explore a lot of Thailand.
I mean, that's also if you
Okay.
apply in back in India and not
Yeah.
visa on arrival only gives you 15 days
Yeah.
in Thailand, right? So,
Okay. Okay.
so the better solution is to go to Vietnam, which is
3 months, yeah.
Yeah, which gives you 3 months, which used to give 6 months. Now they have restricted it to 3 months.
Yeah.
And there is a very nice
Okay.
startup and digital nomad scene in many cities around Vietnam.
Cambodia is also very interesting right now because a lot of their economy, as you know, was completely destroyed. So it's very upcoming. It's a very grassroots scene still. So Cambodia we found very interesting.
Okay.
Bali, we would say, is extremely saturated. We would enjoy Bali if we were going for a
Holiday.
digital detox, just get rid of the internet and maybe do yoga and chill, but definitely not as a digital nomad.
So more like a recreation trip, you would suggest Bali. So more like a recreation trip, you would suggest Bali.
Yeah.
When it comes to digital ecosystem, you say Vietnam is better.
Especially in Bali, in Ubud and Canggu areas. If you go to a cafe with your laptop, you will not get place. It's that crowded now with digital nomads. And every conversation you overhear is either about Instagram influencers or about this cryptocurrency bros. And Bali is completely sad. Like even if you go to a waterfall somewhere, even if you think, okay, 5 a.m. I'll get up and go, there'll be one girl with a suitcase full of dresses and they'll be doing a photo shoot at 5 a.m. Bali is completely filled with either influencers or someone doing some sort of startup like, okay, I'm going to drop ship like something from China or something like that. So
I mean, those things will not work anymore with coronavirus.
Yeah,
but yeah, like our decisions are basically, as Ruchi said, visa, and for us when we started out, it was also money. We couldn't afford coming to America. By the way, we are currently in Mexico City, so Mexico, anywhere in Latin America and South is 3 times more expensive than Asia. So basically we had to consider that, and we covered Asia for 2 years until we were sure that we were financially secure to come to this side of the world.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. So you were mentioning about the visa and other regulatory aspects, right? I mean, what are certain aspects which Indian nomad should be aware of? Did you find any challenges because of visa regulations while you were traveling to different countries?
Yeah, a couple of times, because Indian passport, as you know, is not the strongest passport. So even sometimes when we leave India, like we've been to Vietnam and Thailand, Vietnam, we've been 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
And we entered 3 times. And Thailand,
about
we've
6
been
times.
like 6 or 7 times. But when we would leave India, sometimes at immigration they would ask us, why are you going to Vietnam so much, or why are you going so much? And we would just say something and why are you going for months together? So we would just say something like, oh, we're going on a yoga training camp or something like that.
Okay.
But that's like and even in other countries like Thailand, they would ask us, why do you want 2 months? So we would have to have an itinerary with like cancelable bookings saying, yeah, we have a whole 2 month plan to travel all of Thailand and so on. And once they would let us in, we would cancel all those bookings.
Because if you say
Okay.
if you just stay in a single place, it's a big like a big no-no for them. So it causes like, oh, why do you want to stay in Bangkok for 2 months
I
on a
think
tourist visa?
another thing is like just being an Indian who's on paper doesn't have a job, coming to stay for 2-3 months is a big red flag.
So that's the other thing which we had to set up before we started traveling. One of the biggest factors is, for example, I've been denied visa to Europe twice in my 20s.
Oh, okay.
So just
Okay.
because I was single and I couldn't prove I have a job in India, so I couldn't get employment letters and like leave letters and stuff like that. Even if you say freelancer, that's a big red flag for them, because you could just stay off in Europe. And
Yeah,
not
just
come
to
back.
clarify, as a freelancer, for people who don't know why it's different for a freelancer, you don't have a letter from your HR saying you're getting leave or something that ties you back to India saying, okay, I live here and I work here. So that's why if
Okay.
if you don't have
Okay.
that kind of
Okay.
paperwork, visa is a bit of a challenge for Shenzhen and US visa.
So what we did was, before we started on the journey, we knew this would be a factor. So before we started the journey, we basically opened a LLP in India. So we have our own company where we both are directors.
And we give
So-
ourselves letters of leave whenever we will
Oh,
need.
that's a very good workaround.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we basically, like, officially we are like employees in India. Even today we have friends in India, because we basically travel on tourist visas. We don't travel on work visas, and which is the same thing for any digital nomad. You are there on tourist visas, not on work visas.
Okay.
So that's one of the things which we had to take care of before we started traveling.
Another big concern with visa is they always want you to have a return ticket.
Yeah.
Some countries are okay with onward ticket, like Indonesia and Thailand were okay with just leave our country. We don't care where you go next. But for Singapore, we had to show that we were returning to India. So we had to book a cancelable, refundable flight from Singapore to Chennai. That was the cheapest. From Malaysia, we had to book a flight to India, which we obviously cancelled again. Japan, we were only given a 21-day visa.
No, 1 month visa.
Yeah,
But usually you get 3 months.
Yeah, you're supposed to get 90 days, but we only got like 30 days. And for that, we had to write a letter to the visa consulate. And we had to explain that, oh, we are on a sabbatical and we are not planning to come back to India. And once that letter was like, they approved it, and then we got our visa only for 30 days. Otherwise we are entitled to 90 days.
So you have to find workarounds to get visa, basically.
Yeah, but on the opposite side, in Latin America, like Mexico, we just let in they stamp you 6 months. You can stay 180 days totally. You can leave on the 181st day, and they don't really, and they don't really care. They'll count it, but they'll not.
I mean, this is all because of the US visa. If you have the US visa, the whole of South America opens up. At least for a lot of countries give you 3 months, a lot of countries give you 6 months. So and you can stay for the whole time. So not an issue at all. It's just that the expenses are 3 times more than Asia.
Yeah. And we don't know after the pandemic crisis whether visa policies will get shorter and tighter for everyone.
things would change. Definitely, things would change. It'll become stricter, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you were mentioning about establishing a company which is India-based, right? So, you do your financial transactions through the Indian entity, or how does your transactions work? Do
So right
you
now we
transact
don't.
as a freelancer?
So right now we don't do it because to get like all of our AdSense revenue and stuff through the company, there will be a lot of paperwork involved for which we might have to either be in India or get our parents involved to try to do
Basically,
something. So
the
right now
anything,
we
yeah.
don't use it. We use our personal accounts and
Hmm.
like, by our tax residency, we are residents of India.
So,
Okay.
like the thing is, any change in India when it comes to finances, you are expected to go to the bank.
Yeah.
Like we can't go to the bank in
Right.
like from Mexico.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so we are not using I mean that ecosystem can be set up. We have not set it up. We have been traveling ever since. Once we had the initially the idea was to just for to help with visas. It was never intended to basically
Hmm.
route all the money through the company and stuff. But maybe
Hmm.
next time we come to India, we can consider to strengthen that setup.
Got it. No, because see, one of the aspects which is very difficult for digital entrepreneurs is like transacting with uh, clients in other countries, right? How do you guys tackle that aspect? I mean, are there specific platforms, or do you consult with someone, or how is it?
So for Ruchi, for the YouTube just sends the money
Hmm.
directly to the account. So you that's the only way you can get money from YouTube. Uh, but for me, my clients are in the US, so they do a wire transfer to the Indian account. There are costs involved. There are costs, conversion charges, and transaction charges involved. But and also there are conversion charges and transaction charges involved when we take money out of from the ATMs to live basically. But we consider that that's the cost of this lifestyle. You
So
can't take
if you go
much.
on a 1 week or 2 week trip, you know that okay, this is the currency I need to convert, and you carry that currency with you, or you convert it as soon as you land. But if you're spending a month or 2 months with, like we just spent a month somewhere, and then we decide okay, let's extend this, like extend another month. So you don't know how much money you need. So we just rely on ATMs. Like we just use ATMs like how we would use in India, and we just consider
Okay,
the charges as okay. We don't even think about them.
got it. Great. So we'll just transition to your, I mean, the topic of work. Like, so what would be the recommended career options for someone who is actually looking to travel full time, but at the same time they have to sustain, right, to earn and all. So what are the different kinds of career options which you would recommend or you would want to explore?
So the most obvious one, and the community that actually pioneered this movement and who has been doing it for years before has been the tech community. So there's a lot of options in tech, which of course we'll talk about. But what I think is that whatever you're doing, you need to spend at least a year or two, or how much ever more, to see if you can build a skill in that area, and if it is a if you've networked enough and you have enough business opportunities, that's when you can dive in full time. So before starting the digital nomad lifestyle, I think you would have to you have to spend some time researching what you can do if you can transfer your current skills to something which can be done remotely. For example, the best example is like medicine. Unfortunately, doctors can't
Hmm.
work remote. Can consult a little bit, but there's you might have to change your profession completely. So that's something to look into
Right.
before you consider being a nomad.
Um,
So,
for
yeah.
a, if you ask me, my suggestion would be like if people are most obvious suggestion when people want to do this is like, oh, let me become a travel blogger, right? So I'll make money and
Or
travel,
an
or an
influencer, yeah.
influencer, or like anything in that category. But the biggest problem is you can't make
Hmm.
money unless you have an audience, and building an audience takes time. So you cannot basically say, okay, I will start a travel blog or YouTube channel today, and then start my
Hmm.
digital nomad journey like from today itself. So if you have been doing it for like 3 years, then you can okay, you have enough resources and income coming into at that point of time to basically dive in and become a digital nomad. So the obvious choice of I will become a travel blogger and travel the world without any other income sources is a bad idea. So that with that out of the way, of course, the easiest way to get into this lifestyle is if you are a programmer. That's where the majority of the opportunities are to get into this lifestyle. But as Ruchi mentioned, you can't take up programming today and then say, okay, I'll become a digital nomad today. So you just have to put in an effort of like 2 years to basically learn the skill.
And 2 years is just representative. It's not necessarily, it might be less for you.
It might be more for you.
Yeah.
So, but you need to have the skill, and skill level should be enough for you to people to trust you and give you jobs in remote. So the thing about getting a job remotely is that you basically have to build enough trust so that the other person will just like look at your profile and say, okay, I can trust this person and I'll give you this job and you can do it remotely. For that, either you need to know the person by reference and stuff like that, or your work has to be so strong and in public so that people see your work and say, okay, I know this guy can pull it off. This person can pull off whatever work they have. So, so the consideration is, are you at that level? Basically, then it's the right time to dive into becoming a nomad. So, if you look at the type of work which you can do, of course, programming is in the top. Next comes digital marketing and like stuff like that, which I'm sure you are more than I am in terms of opportunities. But it need not be. If you want to look into something which is outside of tech, then you can look into translation. There's a lot of translators who are digital nomads who get translation gigs. So you can do. We have a friend who translates Japanese scientific papers from Japanese to English, and vice versa.
But that again is a knowledge that you have to gain for a few years.
So that is completely like in any field. That's the first consideration. Do you have the skill level enough to basically dive into and become digital nomads?
Yeah, I think the first thing to check is if what you're currently doing can be done remotely, and if not, what are you interested in like adjacent industries which you can start pursuing to work remote. The other thing that I have seen that Americans and Europeans have success with is asking their companies to let them work remote for a year. Usually that works out in smaller to mid-sized companies, but I don't see that working out in India. I don't see anyone in India asking their...
After coronavirus, that might change because all these companies will have processes in place to basically go remote now. But
like some of our friends in India who have startups, they are realizing that they can save a lot of money on rent and a lot of other expenses if they don't have an office. And once you have once you have processes to work remotely, I think your team, no matter how big, can function very well. It's just that a lot of times people have to be told, come at 9 o'clock, don't leave before 6 o'clock. You have to sit in your seat and we will watch you whether you're working or not. You have to give us a report at the end of the day and all of that. Because people are not initiative takers on their own. We all like to think we take initiative, but it's very hard to be productive on their own, as people will realize now during the pandemic working from home. So people by themselves are motivated to finish their work. It doesn't matter what time you work. It doesn't matter where you're working from. As long as the work gets done and it's a standard of work that is acceptable.
Got it. Great. I will go to the next one. So how is your usual day like? Because you actually stay in a particular place or a few weeks because you have to manage your work and also the travel. How is your usual work day like?
That's the other, I feel like, a misnomer which people have about being remote and being digital nomads is that you will get to work at any point of time, any time of the day you want.
Mm-hmm.
But in
Mm-hmm.
reality, the thing is, yes, you can work at any point of day, any time of day you want, but you need to have some kind of a routine,
Some structure.
some structure, so that you. Otherwise, it's very hard to function if you don't have a
Right.
structure. So you end up having a 9 to 5 job. It might not be from 9 to 5, but it might be from 7 to 3, or maybe later from 12 to 6, or like I'm sure Aditya is up at 2 a.m. in the morning every night. So he's like, you pick your time. You get the choice of what time slab you want to work with, but you have to stick to it.
Yeah.
You can't one day wake up at 7, the other day wake up at 12, and it doesn't work. Everything falls apart very, very quickly if that's the case. And when it comes to managing travel and our work, we have settled into a very nice routine now, in the sense that we
Okay.
usually travel on Thursdays, Fridays, or Saturdays, to whenever our flights
Oh,
are usually
nice.
on that time, so that on the weekend we are in a new place.
Late Sunday flights are also cheaper that we have seen.
Yeah. So basically, we try to see that we are in the weekend in a new place, so that we get our bearings in that new place. So we try to figure out, okay, do we have reliable internet, and then which are the coffee shops which we can work from? Do they have plug points? Do they have charging points? And like
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, where
Yeah.
to find food, where to find like what kind of, because initially you don't have the kitchen setup or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you need to,
Got
there's
it.
a list of stuff which we have to figure out before we start off in a place. So we make sure that routine is in place for us. Yeah, so that's why we
Okay.
can from every other month.
The other thing is
So
that
that.
sometimes if you want to work your schedule around something that you want to do, like for example, if you want to go see a touristy site or go on a hike or something, it's we have
Mhm.
the flexibility to do it on a Monday or a Tuesday when there will be less people, rather than on Saturday, Sunday when there will be it will be a lot crowded. So if we work on
Okay.
Saturday, we can try to take some time off on Monday, which we have the freedom to adjust things like that. But usually we work 4 days and
Which is
um,
like Monday to
yeah, Thursday.
Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Yeah.
we usually explore, make
So,
videos.
And since
so
we
in the
work,
last few minutes,
we look at
so in
like
the last few minutes, you have mentioned around three acts. So one is you usually plan your travels around the weekends so that the flight cost is cheaper, and you will be able to explore during weekdays. I mean, I think these hacks will definitely help a lot of people. Please keep it coming.
Yeah, so that way, over time, we have evolved our structures around travel, and structures around
yeah.
our day-to-day life.
So
Okay.
we also to explore locally. We like to see like a list of coffee shops or cafes that we can work from different neighborhoods. So if we go early, then we check out by 4 o'clock, and then 4 to nighttime we can explore a new neighborhood or something, which is really it's
Yeah,
nice in
Nice.
big cities.
and we love cities.
Mm-hmm.
So we mostly, like, the long-term stays we usually is in a city. Um, yeah.
Got it. Got it. So since you are completely based on remote work, what is the kind of remote stack which you use? The different kinds of tools, in order to collaborate, communicate, and other aspects.
On work side, I use Slack, so that's like the
Mm-hmm.
biggest one. And other than that, we don't use any specific remote tools. When it comes to second breakfast, we are in
Mm-hmm.
two. So
We just yell at each other.
yeah, I mean, those processes had to get better all time, but now it's still yelling at each other. But yeah, well, we don't have any. We do use Nomad List a lot. It's an amazing
Okay.
community.
It's not a work tool though.
Yeah, but just being remote.
Yeah.
To be remote, like the other tool which we use is Nomad List.
And the notes app.
Okay.
That's the tool I use the most. I think I would
Notes.
say.
Yeah, you use the default Notes app, right?
Yeah.
And I use this Notes app called Bear.
Okay. Okay.
And now I've started using Notion, which is way better than Bear. But I'm still getting
Okay.
used to it. So
Mhm.
And we use Google Drive a lot. Google
Yeah.
Sheets, Google Docs. And
Yeah, there's a whole lot of process when it comes to second breakfast and making YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Like you have to back up your footage. The backup has to happen constantly. And we have two hard drives which are copy of each other, which are mirrored.
Mhm.
Basically. So we have a local copy, and then whenever we have good internet, that gets uploaded to Google Drive. So yeah, there's a different pipeline
Got it. Got
set
it.
of
Got it.
tools when it comes to making videos.
I think we'll definitely speak about YouTube channel next, right? Give me a second. Yeah. So, what exactly is Second Breakfast, and how did you guys scale your YouTube channel by 10x in the last 1 year?
So Second Breakfast is basically we came up with that name because we really like the scene in Lord of the Rings where the hobbits are going on an adventure and they are like, okay, we've already had breakfast, and then the other one asked, what about second breakfast? So that felt very like we connected with that a lot. So that's why we named it Second Breakfast. And we didn't, because we were living in Bangalore, we didn't know it will be specific to travel. So we knew we'll do something in food and travel and lifestyle, but we didn't zero in on travel completely. So that's why the name Second Breakfast we felt just fit in perfectly with who we are as people. And once we started traveling for a while, we were only focused on blogging and Instagram. And then I think last year, beginning of last year, in January, 2019 is when we started to take it seriously. There was this video we made about
Mhm.
the Cuban community in Miami, and it was very slow to take off. It only has 10K views, which is very small by YouTube standards. But that was the first video which we felt like we made videos before that. But this video, particularly,
Mhm.
was a video where we felt that we could actually pursue a career seriously as travel filmmakers. So that video by itself, people were sharing it on Reddit, and Reddit is a community where they are pretty vicious if you're being silly or something. So
Right.
it was pretty nice to see actual Cuban Americans sharing it on Reddit, and we used to get a lot of
Wow.
comments from people in the Caribbean area, from Trinidad and the islands in the Caribbean, and also from Cubans saying that thank you for making this video. This was so respectful to Cuba and stuff. So we felt like okay, there is some potential in this. People are listening to stories like this, and we wanted to make videos on specific topics regarding culture. So we don't want to just do like okay 10 things to do in Thailand or something like that, which we feel everyone is doing. Since we get to spend more than a month or 2 months in a place, we want to focus in on specific topics like okay, is there a Japanese community in the middle of Peru somewhere? And there is, and that would be so
Mhm.
interesting for people around the world to see what they've done with their food and why are they here and stuff like that, right? So that's the kind of things we want to focus on, and we are slowly trying to do that. Then another video idea we had was to make foreigners try Indian food, especially food they might not have
Wow.
tried.
Interesting.
Of course, like biryani and naan and chicken curry is like famous everywhere. In Indian food and Bollywood is like pretty famous around the world, but they wouldn't have had things like dosa or pongal and stuff like that. So we made a video where we asked our Mexican friends to try South Indian food, and it was pretty hilarious. And in a few days, it took off to almost now it has 500,000 views,
Yeah.
and it's
So
still going. We are hoping it hits 1 million in
Wow.
yeah.
the
Nice.
next few months of lockdown.
So that one video
Awesome. Awesome.
actually basically made our YouTube channel get
Yeah.
monetized, and since then we have been like making money. But that's also a driver for subscribers. So that's where the 10x growth comes from. Um, so right now we are about 5,600 subscribers, I think. I've not checked recently,
Mhm.
but that's the thing about YouTube also, which I was the point which I was making before is that we didn't have any skill in YouTube, like in filmmaking. We had
Right.
never done make videos and stuff. So it took us time for us to basically understand video editing, shooting, storytelling through video, everything. So it's been a journey. I don't think we are like, if we want to just survive on video editing or storytelling or video making, I don't think anyone would trust a project to us this right now. So if we were not remote and we were like, oh, I'll become a travel YouTuber, we are not in a stage yet where we would make enough money to sustain. So there is still a lot to learn. It may take another year for us, but the advantage is we have other income sources, so we can do it while we just have this lifestyle.
Makes sense. So, I mean, have you once you started learning video making, filmmaking, have you set certain process? Like, would you script? Would you set up, decide on a place, or is it spontaneous? Usually, you visit a place and you come up with the idea and start shooting.
A lot of things that happen, like if you're tasting some food for the first time or if you're exploring something for the first time, those things are spontaneous, but we try to have a structure in terms of, okay, what will be the introduction, what should be the outro, what should be in the middle of the video to keep people engaged. And if it is a vlog, there is no script as such, but if it is a planned video about a topic, which most of our videos are, then we script it out. We have a rough scripted points that we want to say, and then
yeah, usually the ideas for videos we discuss right after we decide, okay, we are going to, this is the next place we are going to. So then we sit down and research about what videos can be done there, and then we come up with a list of videos. And once we enter the country, we decide, okay, which to pick up and like run with it. So so that's the usual process.
Got it. So, since you guys don't have the experience, you didn't have the experience, do you use certain tools like Adobe, etc., or you use something simpler ones?
So I use Premiere, and for photos, I use Lightroom to edit.
Okay.
Then, I didn't try any other tool. I just opened Premiere, I learned how to use it, and I just settled for it. But a lot of people are saying DaVinci is better.
I mean, there's a new
editor,
DaVinci Resolve, which everyone is moving to. Like even professional video editors are moving to that one.
I'm not sure if I will move yet, but it doesn't really
Like nothing beats Premiere.
What?
So when it comes to video editing, I think Premiere is one of the best tools for video editing. You're just getting a hang of it. That's good.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think we are barely using like 5% of Premiere. What Premiere can do, but that's good enough for making YouTube videos. You don't have to learn like everything which the tool offers, which is a highly complex industry level tool. But yeah, that's she does most of the editing, so she picked up video editing, like Premiere. But I use Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop, like I'm sure any tech inclined person in India would have been dabbling with Photoshop since like engineering days or something like that. So we do use Photoshop to make thumbnails. That's the only thing which we use Photoshop for. But the stack is just Adobe Creative Suite.
Wow, nice. So you're usually the person behind the camera, right, Avinash, for most of the videos? Like,
yeah, when I'm on
how did you learn the process of video making? Yeah.
Mostly trial and error, and then there's a couple of YouTube filmmakers who follow that post a lot of tutorials, and usually every video we learn something new. Like, okay, we shouldn't have done this, or we should finish our shoot before like 6:30 in the evening because the light gets really bad. Every video we learn some new thing or the other. And,
yeah, that's one of the reasons why I say that we still have like a year to go, where we will be very comfortable with the skill we have. There's still a lot of holes in terms of which we need to fix, which you can see if you follow us for a long time. You can see like every video
from our first video to almost the first 20-25 videos. Till our Japan videos, everything is shot on the iPhone 7 Plus.
So we didn't have a
Yeah.
camera and anything. We had iPhone 7 Plus plus moment wide angle lens,
Yeah.
so that you get a wider aperture.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a Rode mic for the phone. So that was our
Okay.
setup for the first 30 videos. And then
Okay.
we okay, it's time to get serious. So we bought a Sony A6500.
Yeah, just one day before going to Japan in Malaysia, we bought a camera. Like our flight was leaving
Mm-hmm.
at lunch, and we just went. We woke up. We went with all our luggage to the store. We bought the camera and the lens, and then we went to the airport.
Because it was cheaper
Yeah,
in
in Malaysia
Malaysia
you
than
get tax-free
yeah.
electronics.
And then we went
Got
for
it. Got
bought
it.
a lens in
Got it.
Sony lens in
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah,
Uh,
because sorry,
because
yeah,
Sony.
Yeah.
So we bought a lens, wide
Right.
angle lens
Right.
there. So since then we have been using that
Nice.
setup. Like
But
almost.
occasionally we also use a phone. Like if we are out somewhere and we see something interesting on the street, then we just pull out our
Mm-hmm.
phone and we have it. It's just how you stitch a story together and how well
Mm-hmm.
you can keep the audience engaged. It honestly doesn't matter what you're using.
Yeah. So for the
Got it. Makes sense.
first 2 years of like our YouTube journey, like before, I don't count the first 1 year because basically whatever we were producing was
Mm-hmm.
uh, very like we are trying out YouTube for the first time kind of videos.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first 1.5 to 2 years, which was all about figuring out the actual equipment itself and editing and stuff. And then after we had got some
Mm-hmm.
hand on it, now we focus more on the storytelling aspect than because we know what to do with our cameras and editing and stuff. We can concentrate on how to tell a better story.
Got it. So there's one comment from a viewer. So how much time is it usually take for you to make a video, produce it, and publish it? Considering you're not, you're still exploring video making.
It depends on the video. Sometimes a video has multiple things which have been shot over a couple of days, and
Mm-hmm.
then you need a couple of hours to sort through the footage, and then a couple of days to edit, and then publishing is very easy if the internet connection is fast, because publishing is more about the upload speeds. So once the video is done, it's all about like, okay,
Got
if you have fast internet, you can upload it.
Um,
We try to upload
got
on weekends, on Saturday night here, which is Sunday morning in India. So
it. Mm-hmm.
we have to see during the week how to film and how to film and edit by the time it's time to post. But
Makes
more or
sense.
less, a
Makes sense.
video should take like one-ish week if we are not being lazy about it.
if it's a
Got it. Got
vlog,
it. I mean,
right now, according to my observations, if it's a vlog, it takes a week. Vlogs are easier to edit, but if it's a
mm-hmm.
topical video, for example, like this Mexican try South Indian food, that's
Mm-hmm.
like that takes some logistics first because you need to find people to make them eat Indian food. So there's some logistics involved because we don't even know the language here. So like we know enough Spanish to get by day to day, but not like chat with a completely native Spanish person to invite them over to try Indian food. So there's some logistics there, and once the logistics is in place, then we have to shoot it over a single day or a week, depending upon the availability of people. And then
Mm-hmm.
editing that is harder than editing a vlog. So it usually takes like 1 or 2 weeks to edit that before it's ready in a shape. We have one from
So imagine like almost 8-9 hours of footage, which will be made into a 6 to 10 minute vlog. Like if you have to condense that much down to just 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a while.
yeah.
Got
So,
it. Got it.
so yeah, we have a video coming up called
Makes
Colombian
sense.
Fry Indian Snacks. It's been 3 months, 4
Mm-hmm.
months since we went to Colombia. It's still in edit.
Wow.
And also it's because
Okay.
we've
Okay.
been traveling and
Yeah.
coronavirus and we had to escape South America and stuff like that. So
Right. Makes sense. And we are already around 50 minutes into the interview. Great. So, I mean, How are you guys coping up with this current crisis?
So we were in Bolivia, and Bolivia, the
Okay.
only way out of Bolivia is to either go to Argentina or go to
Mm-hmm.
Brazil or come to Peru. So when we were in Bolivia, we had like we were traveling this remote part of Bolivia, so there was there's barely anything there, no cell phones, no connection at all. There's barely any shops or people, so you can imagine how remote it is. And once we came back to the city in Bolivia, we were like, okay, it's getting a little serious. And then within a few days, the situation changed. As you know, we were thinking, okay, where should we go next? Chile and Argentina both closed their borders, and flights were getting really expensive. So we knew that okay, if we don't leave Bolivia now, if we are not
Mm-hmm.
able to extend our visa in Bolivia, we'll be trapped here. So we knew we had to leave South America because South America, it looks like it's close to the US, but it's really not. It's almost $3,000 to go from South America to New York or
I mean,
something.
Wow.
two of us.
Yeah, in a short notice. So we decided to
Okay.
go to Peru to spend because we get 6 months in Peru, right? So we decided we'll go to Peru, and then Peru just gave us 6 days because they were also closing their borders. So we decided to leave Peru and go to Mexico City. So we had to go from La Paz to Cusco, Cusco to Lima, Lima to Panama City, Panama City to Mexico City. And then we were scared that Mexico also might have decided to close borders. There's no news about Mexico closing borders. So we thought, okay, Mexico also won't let us in, or they will just let us in for 10 days and something like that. And then if Mexico didn't allow us in, we would have had to go to the US and then fly to India, maybe through Europe or wherever, and India also was on lockdown by that point. So
Okay.
thankfully, Mexico let us in and stamped us in for 6 months. And apparently, the embassy here is saying that they will
Mm-hmm.
extend it in so the circumstances. You can extend it for another 6 months. So worst case, if there are no flights or flights are very expensive, we get to stay in Mexico. We have like a good place here and everything. But it was
Also,
like a bit scary to
yeah.
just go through so many flights and stuff.
Also, we chose Mexico because we stayed here for 6 months, like into
Last year.
last year. So we made a lot of
Okay.
friends here. So we have a nice set of friends to help us out if something like does go wrong or we need help. We have support in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have a couple of Indian friends here who live in Mexico City. So if they have connections into the Indian embassy here, so if something
Mm-hmm.
happens, if some emergency notice comes through, we'll be able to get it. So like it's one of the big we could have stayed in South America, but that's one of the big reasons to
Mm-hmm.
come over to Mexico rather than staying in South America.
Right. So how is the situation currently there? Is it under
So
control or how is it?
no lockdown like in India. It's people are just recommended to stay at home, and if you step out, there are people they prefer if you wear a mask. And every store they have sanitizers and stuff at the entrance, so they're not allowing people to hang out anywhere. So you can't. Two of us can't go to the supermarket, so it's only one person per house that can come. You can't
Mm-hmm.
go out with friends and stuff like that, which is a good measure, but most essentials are functioning. The public transport is working, and
So
supermarkets are completely stocked and everything.
Mexico's reaction to coronavirus has been a little bit slack
Yeah.
in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that they're not taking it. They didn't take it seriously when, like, even the US went into lockdown and everything. The US Mexican border was open for a long time, so and
Okay.
and testing here is not widespread. So the numbers we are
Mm-hmm.
seeing is definitely not the actual numbers. So we have been since we came here, we have been isolating ourselves. So we have
Got it.
quarantining ourselves even if it's not required. Mexico City,
Mm-hmm.
as a city, has taken up steps,
Yeah.
but there's still public
Okay.
transportation. So
But
Mm-hmm.
everything's empty, like all of the restaurants and stuff, everything
yeah,
is closed. It's
uh,
it's all and they have apps where you can get anything delivered. All stores are open for delivery, but you can't go there.
so yeah, the situation is
Okay.
still
So
uncertain. Um, we
mm-hmm.
don't know where it's going because there's no testing and stuff like that. and there is no official lockdown. Like there's no date like in India that until end of April
Mhm.
lockdown or maybe extended. There's no such dates here. It's just that people have taken upon themselves to be home. So uh,
Mhm.
so that's the situation here. So we'll just have to. It's a waiting game for us to see. And the first opportunity we get to come back to India, we'll take it. So
Got it.
this
So
is
has the situation affected your business or work?
So not right now because I guess people have more time on their hands and they're watching more videos. So in a way, that's good. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like eventually travel content might get boring because the landscape of travel will change in the foreseeable future. You will not see people travel immediately after the lockdown is lifted, right? It will take at least a year or two to for travel industries to spring back up. So
Mm-hmm.
that way, we feel like okay, travel will change forever. So
Got
that
it.
way we want to see what we can come up with to uh,
Makes sense.
maybe to think about what direction the video should take when we are not
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Got it. Makes
the
sense.
other aspect is like we can't explore right away, so
yeah
we can't
Mhm.
make more travel footage. So that affects like the kind of
yeah
videos which we make. So we have some like new ideas in the pipeline of what we can do inside the house.
yeah
So
and
hopefully
like
we
once
can.
the lockdown is lifted, the first thing we want to do is just go home, right, and see family and friends and stuff. So we have to keep
Right.
that in mind as well.
Mm, got it. So just before we take the questions from viewers, what are the different interesting places you have been to? I mean, if at all you have to list the top two, which would those be and why?
For me, it would definitely be Taiwan and Japan, and I would also
Okay.
say Philippines.
I've not been to Philippines, but Japan is number one for me, and I guess two will be Vietnam. Uh, uh,
Okay.
Latin America, I would say Bolivia.
Yeah, Bolivia is a hidden gem in the sense that not many people go there. They go to
Mm-hmm.
like salt flats, which is one of the most famous things you can see in Bolivia. But Bolivia as a
Okay.
country itself has a lot to offer. The people are amazing,
Mm-hmm.
people are friendly. We got to stay in this little. I'm saying little because it is the capital of the country called Sucre, which is only
Okay.
judicial capital. It's all the legislature and everything is in La Paz. So everyone thinks La Paz is the capital, but it's not. But if you go to Sucre, it reminds me of
Okay.
my hometown back in India, which is Mysore. So we went there for 3 days and we stayed for 18 days
Yeah,
in Sucre because we really like the place.
yeah. It's
And
called the White City. All the buildings are painted white. It's very pretty. And there's a
uh,
small Korean community there, which is
Nice.
very
And why Japan?
Japan, I would say because Japan is like no other place in the world. Like how tradition and modernity exist together so perfectly in Japan, it's amazing. Like you'll be walking
Mm-hmm.
down a street full of skyscrapers, and then suddenly there'll be a big park with a temple, and it will be so peaceful and quiet. And Japan, the people are like nowhere else. Like I've not seen
Mm-hmm.
anywhere where people follow rules. If it says don't eat on the metro, nobody eats on the metro. And it's not in a way that the there has to be cops around to enforce the rules. You know what I mean? In India, you would have to do that. But people want to follow the rules. If somebody sees some trash on the road, they will pick it up. If it doesn't even matter if it's theirs. Like we were walking down the street, we were eating something, and then we had the wrapper in our hand, and then this one shopkeeper comes to us and says, "Okay, I'll take that. I'll throw it in my dustbin." It's amazing
so
how
the
thoughtful people are. Like we saw this woman walking with a baby come stepping out of the metro station, and just some guy
Mm-hmm.
came and held an umbrella for her because it was drizzling.
Fantastic.
the culture
Nice.
and like the culture and the society is completely different from
What
what you
we've
get
seen,
what
yeah.
you get in any other part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean we have not seen such a community, such a culture anywhere else. in the 16 countries we have been to.
And of course, there are like bad things about the culture as well. As tourists, we don't really get to see that side of it. We only see the good aspects because you're there for a short time, right?
But we are aware of the bad side.
Yeah.
Like every culture has its like policies, but it's something, it's way different. One of the really nice things which I like about it is about the culture and society is it leads to the people taking care of the environment.
Yeah.
So in Japan, the nature is amazing. The nature is pristine. The nature is kept so protected. People are proud of the nature around them.
And the nature is it exists in the city. So if you just want to take a hike in Tokyo, you can just get on a metro. 15 minutes, you can go to a hill where you can go for a hike and then come back to the city.
That's Taipei.
Wow.
Tokyo,
Interesting.
for instance.
So in Taiwan also they follow like a lot of
Taiwan is very inspired by Japan. They model themselves after Japanese, so they are also exactly the same, like kind people, very clean. I would say Taiwanese people are more open and friendly than
That's
Japanese.
true.
Japanese people are very closed off. I think that's because of the language. But if they know English, Japanese people are pretty friendly as well.
Nice. Interesting.
So we are
Great
thinking
points, yeah.
that before this lockdown, we were thinking that we will see if we can get a long-term visa to spend 1 or 2 years in Japan without getting a full-time job. So we thought if we learn the language and spend a year and see if we really like it and if it is a potential place for us to settle down or have a base, we would love to do it in Japan. But we'll see what the situation is after the lockdown, after the pandemic.
Got it. Superb. So we'll just go with the comments and questions from the audience. Shall we start? Yeah. Okay, there's an hi from Chaitra. Hi Chaitra, thanks for joining. Hi Geeta, thanks for joining. Okay, there's a question from Rahul Das, which was just answered a few moments ago.
Yeah.
So Japan is what they favor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's true for both of us.
Yeah, another country which we are curious about, which we haven't gone, is China, because China has influenced all of our favorite Asian countries: Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. All of them have Chinese influence. It's not a good time to go to China anytime soon, but Chinese culture is as old as Indian culture, so it's very interesting. It's like one of our bucket list countries.
But on the Latin American side, we really like Mexico. That's one of the other countries we might consider like staying long term. Like people are extremely friendly. The food is like insane. So, and Mexicans love Indians, and vice versa. So
yeah, Mexicans are so friendly. Like every time we step out for something, we made a friend.
Even now,
wow,
even
nice.
now they want to basically talk to you, shake hands.
Yeah.
Even in a pandemic, they want to do all those things.
Yeah, like yesterday we had to step out to get a bottle of sanitizer, and then we met this guy who was like, "Oh, are you from India? I went a couple of years back, and I love Delhi. I love the food." And then he said, "India is full of eagles." And I was like, I'm not sure, but yeah, that was interesting to randomly hear something like that. Mexicans are super friendly.
Got it. Nice. Yeah. So here's a question from Manoj. Are you guys travel bloggers or just bloggers?
I would say neither. Actually, we are more of YouTubers. I'm not sure if we are. I'm like right now the definition of blogging has changed to just people with an Instagram profile call themselves travel bloggers, right? They don't even have a website or anything. So for me, when I go by the traditional definition of blogging, which is having a blog on the website, whether it's on a platform like old platform like Blogger, or whether you've built a blog on WordPress or something, that is what I consider a blog. And not like sharing your stuff on Instagram, I would say is not a blog. But I would say that we are travel YouTubers. That's what I would say.
Yeah, so we usually mostly focus on like the countries, the culture and the food of the countries we go to. And we like to explore unique topics of that place and try to make videos on those topics rather than completely basing the videos on our experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you basically focus on exploring cultures and cuisines of different places you visit.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say the difference
Makes sense.
between travel bloggers on Instagram is like Instagram travelers are mostly like, okay, I went here, I did this, I wore this dress in this place, and we would like to focus. The place is the star of the show. So we are like
Right.
we just there. We want to tell you the story of this place, share its culture. We just happen to be here to capture it in a way to share it with people.
Got it. Perfect. Great. Thank you, Abhijit. Thanks for joining us. Thank
Thanks.
you, Nitra. Yeah. So here's a compliment from Chaitra. She loved the videos from Japan.
Thank you.
You want to tell him? Chitra Shankar is
What is it about?
Yeah.
Wow, nice. Thank you. Great. Okay. Here's another question from Sarvesh. With travel on one hand and digital business on the other hand, you would have met many people. My question is there a community that you have found in both the fields?
Yes, definitely. I think the best part of the travels is meeting people for us because people they are the culture, right, of a place. So it's really important for us to meet both locals and foreigners while we travel. So a lot of our friends are in the digital nomad space as well because we can connect really well. There are some friends from Bangalore from like my lawyer days and stuff which they can't relate to what we are doing anymore. So our friendship just kind of faded, but
Mm-hmm.
there are
Mm-hmm.
people who are doing the same things that we are doing, traveling like us. There are people who are traveling like us with kids, so that's a nice new
yeah.
perspective to see as well. And a lot of our friends are in the restaurant business because we spend so much time in cafes and restaurants. So if they see us filming or if they see us spending the whole day there with our laptop, they usually become friends with us. So a lot of our friends are cafe owners. I guess it's we can connect with them because running a cafe is somewhat like running a YouTube channel. You have to work really hard to get some little bit of traction. So
Got it.
that's probably why.
Yeah, most of our
Makes
friends
sense.
in
Yeah.
India, back in India because of when we started like digital nomading in India itself, in the sense that going to cafes and working from cafes, we made friends with cafe owners in India. So it started there, like even before we started traveling.
And also, whenever
Oh,
we
wow.
come to a new country, we always join the digital nomad groups. Like, for example, we are part of Digital Nomads Mexico or expats in Mexico. So you always come across interesting people who are running a local business or doing something interesting, or sometimes even bloggers and YouTubers as well. So that's nice to connect with people that way.
Mhm. So how do you start off a conversation with someone new? I mean, just to build a rapport or
So you just kind of say, "Hey, you're doing this. I do this. Nice to connect with you. I'm in Mexico. Would you like to just grab coffee sometime?"
So the thing in like a place like Nomad List is this is an expected behavior.
Yeah.
Like you just check
Mhm.
like people who are around in the same community and say you are here from this date to this date and this is what you do. Would be nice to meet people and
Mhm.
like people like respond to that.
Yeah. Most of the time, most people are responsive. I would say
Yeah.
8 out of 10 people are very responsive. We always meet them more than once. We get really friendly with them. Like we were following a bunch of these. We were looking for a designer for a logo, and then we were following a bunch of
Okay.
designers in Mexico because we thought, okay, we'll find some designer in Mexico itself. And then we were sitting
Mhm.
in a coffee shop, and then we were just browsing stories, and then we saw this guy's stories from the same coffee shop, and then we looked up, and he's like sitting 2 tables away. So we then just went and introduced ourselves, saying, "Oh, we follow each other on Instagram." And then we started hanging out, and now they're pretty good friends of ours.
Wow.
So most people are fairly
Nice.
responsive. Most people want to hang out. It's
Mhm.
it's not hard to ask people to hang out. Yeah.
Super. Yeah. So another compliment from your mom. Yeah. Yeah. So while being a digital nomad, is there a place for innovation to kick off, or how would you go about it? So I'm
Um,
not exactly sure what context
yeah.
you're setting. I mean,
You mean
take
it
it, Avinash. Yeah.
or nomads? I'm not sure if you mean like products or services for digital nomads themselves, or which I feel like there might be right now, considering a lot of people are starting to work from home and work remote. So
Hmm.
depends on what it is. Something to think about.
Yeah. So I mean, like, let's talk about the both aspects, like innovation in the digital nomad space itself for digital nomads. The number of people who will become digital nomads after coronavirus is going to go up because people would have gotten a taste of working from home and some of them would realize, okay, I like this, so I want to do more of this. And like then the
Hmm.
next logical solution is like, why should I be in a place where then I could be anywhere in the world? So some people
Right.
would convert and become digital nomads. So there is space for digital nomads tools in the future. But
But there are
Hmm.
already a lot of tools.
yeah, but yeah,
So
so there'll be a
there's a potential
consolidation.
to market them
Yeah,
properly.
exactly. And then
Right. So
on the innovation side of like, will we be able to innovate in whatever we are doing? Yes, that starts with meeting new people. Once you start meeting new people, innovation happens. Just about like meeting them.
mhm. Got it. So I think he replied back with a follow-up sentence telling that how do you guys keep your relevance in communities?
So the it kind of automatically happens when you're part of the community. So when you hear new things in the community, for example, for me, the editing community, I edit almost every day, and I'm in touch with other editors and YouTubers. So that way, I
Hmm.
know what is happening. I know if a new tool is coming out, or I know if an update is coming out, or something like that. So that way, I am informed of
Hmm.
what is happening in my community. It's just being in touch with the right people, and also putting yourself out there a bit, like maybe having a presence on Twitter or Medium or something. That's a little more for the back end of the editing community. You would not learn a lot from scrolling YouTube than you would learn from talking about YouTube with other YouTubers, like, okay, what is the algorithm update or something like that. So that's something
Hmm.
you need to involve yourself to keep yourself updated. That's the only way. It applies to any community, any industry, that you need to keep yourself updated with what's happening.
The communities which we form,
Makes
like the
sense.
friends which we make in a place which you visit. Unfortunately, we can be in a place only be in a place for a month or two, depending upon the visa. So once you make friends with them, it is kind of sad to leave to a new place. Um, but if that friendship is strong enough, it stays online, continues to
Hmm.
stay online. But that's the test for that friendship to see if it's strong enough. We
Makes
do miss people like
sense.
once we
Totally.
leave a
Yeah.
place.
Got it. So I mean, apart from Nomadless, so have you formed a separate community of yourself where you are always in touch with very closed network of people?
Only on Instagram,
Yeah.
like in personal profiles.
Okay, so that is where you build your network. Yeah, makes
YouTube is
sense.
slower
Got
to
it.
build because in Instagram, because stories, you're sharing very minute day-to-day aspects of your life. Like today, I woke up and I made coffee or something like that. If you share something like that, people become somewhat attached to you, right? Even if it's
Right.
not a real attachment, you don't know them, but you get attached. But on YouTube, it's a planned and edited video, so a lot of people don't really connect with you immediately because
Hmm.
almost 80% of our views come from people who are not subscribed. So
That's
Oh,
true for
okay.
every video.
yeah, exactly. But that it takes a while for people to
Yeah.
connect on YouTube rather than on Instagram. It's very unedited versions of your life, so people connect more there.
Right. I mean, there is that curiosity aspect on on Instagram, right, where you show certain behind the scenes. People are curious to know how your life is going on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, got it. Thank you, Geeta. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So, can digital marketer become digital nomads? Yes, this question was answered early in this live.
Actually, you should answer that
Yeah,
question
I'd
because
like more
Right. I mean,
information on
see,
how to
can,
contact
yeah,
Aditya than
yeah, you
us.
should take a live session on that.
thank you. And
So,
that is one of the profiles which would give you the location
Yes,
independence, right?
yes.
so you did make plans to go to Bali in February before it all got cancelled because of the virus, right?
Okay. Avinash has told our conversation.
Yeah.
Superb. Yeah. So this question is from Vanshaj. What encoding software are you using?
I think his
One is Premiere. I mean,
It's
do
a
you
question actually.
what?
What encoding software are you using?
Yeah, but I think what he means is which editing
Yeah,
software.
I think
video editing app?
call. I think for this call,
No.
right? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Oh, maybe.
Because encoding is,
Got it.
if you meant editing, then we use Premiere.
Premiere.
Yeah.
Right. Food of which country is exciting?
All the countries, or probably all the countries. If I had to say which was the most interesting, I would say Japan, Taiwan, and Mexico was the most interesting.
I'm surprised you
And,
didn't include Vietnam in there.
but Vietnam food we love, but most interesting to explore was okay, Vietnam also. Let's say the top four is Vietnam and
Okay.
Philippines also. Philippines food is highly underrated. You don't see anyone talking a lot about Filipino food. And
Oh, is it?
least interesting, I would say, is the US. Yes, there's no food in the US.
Okay.
I mean, the food in the US is take anything and deep fry it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's,
or like potatoes and bread,
yeah.
cheese,
Now you take anything
and sugar.
like,
Yeah,
deep fry it and put sugar on it.
yeah, and make it
Got
like
it.
XXL sized.
Makes sense. Okay, here's a question from Kiran. Thanks for joining. Yeah. So, how do you fund your lifestyle and savings? And I think you can take this question.
So we fund our lifestyle with a bunch of freelance projects that we have, and also our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel by itself is not enough to sustain us right now because it's only been a year, and like we don't, it's not monetized enough to sustain both of us completely. But that is the goal in
Mhm.
the next few years to have our entire lifestyle be fund like be monetized or be able to fund our travel from YouTube and from related travel related things. And savings, basically we have a rule for putting a chunk of our money into savings every month. We don't touch that, and we have a bunch of FDs and other investments which we simply will not touch unless like shit hits the fan or something. So for now we are good.
Mhm.
And yeah, we have recurring income every month. It might be a little different every month, but we make an income every month. So yeah, we are good. And basically, what do you do
Got it.
for a living? We make YouTube videos, and Avi does some digital programming stuff.
Yeah, programming.
Yeah, not
Digital
digital programming.
programming.
Software programming. Okay.
Yeah.
Your money in dollars, euro, pounds. So YouTube being an American company, you see what you've earned in dollars, but when it hits your account in India, gets converted to INR. With there'll be slight deduction. It doesn't matter that much, but yeah, on paper we are residents of India. By passport we are Indian citizens. So our tax residency is also India, and according to officials, we live in India for any tax or any paperwork, bank work related purposes.
The same for holds for me. I have clients in the US, so I get paid in dollars, but once it hits Indian accounts, it's converted to INR. And all our operations
Got
from there is in from there, like our expenses is all in INR.
Yeah. We earn in INR, but we
Mhm.
think in dollars.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And
So, do you want to take the second part of the question, Avinash?
How
So,
do
how
you
do you manage visa
visa
issues?
issues
Yeah.
as yeah, we have already talked about that, about the visa issues.
Right.
long story short, you have to research a lot, find out a lot of like loopholes in the visa policy, like
And yeah, have hacks. The biggest thing about visas is you have to prove that you have something back in India. Like if you are, especially if you are single, man or women, it doesn't matter. That you, it's very difficult for countries in Europe, for example, to give you visa if you are single and if you don't have any connection, if you don't show that you have a job back in India. So you will get rejected. So those are the things you have to take care of. One perk of for us is because we are married, your status changes. If you are married, it seems like more settled than otherwise, which doesn't apply to us. But if people want to believe that, that's okay. So
like
that's
sometimes they stamp me in, like I'm already stamped in at immigration, but they'll ask him like, why are you here? So that's like, okay, my wife is
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, visas are always a big issue, like because of our passport. But we have learn to deal with it, and we have also learned that you might not get the visa, you might get denied, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you should be able to like deal with it if you actually don't.
Yeah, and you have to be okay with losing a bit of money. Like for example, certain countries ask for a return ticket back to India, so we book refundable flights to India, just show on paper that we have it, and then you lose a bit of money canceling that flight.
Yeah.
So that's just part of the lifestyle. You can't, you just don't think about it.
Unavoidable. Yeah.
Then she asked, do you avoid going to countries like USA, Europe, or do you have strategies to circumvent it? Actually, having the US visa is very helpful because almost all of Latin America and some countries in Asia like Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Taiwan open up because of the US visa. They simply give you a visa on arrival if you have the US visa. So it's great to have a US visa. Luckily, we both were in India and had jobs, so we could get US visas without any problem before we started traveling. That was one of the best advice we got from one of my nomad friends from another country in Philippines. She's been doing it for almost 5 years, and Philippine passport is as bad as Indian passport. So getting the US visa was a great advice. Europe, we simply avoided because we didn't know much about Schengen visa except that you get Schengen visa for very short duration, right?
And also my history with getting rejected with Schengen visa, we have not tried it again. But
and also we couldn't really afford Europe at that time, so we stuck to Asia for 2 years, and Asia is amazing. Like we wish we were stuck in Asia now, actually. So
yeah, but Latin America with the US visa is also very easy to travel.
Yeah.
But you must have the US visa.
Yeah. So what were you going to say about Europe?
Typically, how long?
Yeah.
The thing about Europe is we plan to go to Europe. Now that we have so much travel history, it shouldn't be that hard.
And also we found out from like a lot of, once we got into the digital nomad community, we found out a lot about different types of visas that you can get in Europe. You don't have to do traditional visas. Like certain countries offer freelancer visas. There's a lot of paperwork involved for freelancer visas, but at some point we are going to look into that so that we can spend a few months or a year in Europe. And
all these visa things are like out of the window right now because things can change after. Things will change after coronavirus, and there'll be no more.
Yeah, maybe they'll get.
I think that would be a different discussion.
Yeah. Typically, how long do we stay? We like to stay 2-3 months in each country and maybe a month minimum in each city, but that's just
depends on
the visa and depends on how we like it. Like there's no rule. If we don't like it, we leave in a few days. We're open to that. Again, a lot of countries only allow up to 14 days on a tourist visa, I think. So that's not true. Actually, a lot of countries give you 30 days, 60 days, 6 months. A lot of Latin American countries give you 6 months with an extendable 6 months.
3 months or 6 months.
Yeah. So it's just about researching how much they give you and knowing the visa policies, knowing how to do a visa run, and seeing how much you can extend it.
I mean, that can become its own.
That 14 days is it's not true actually.
That's only Thailand.
Only Thailand, and maybe now Taiwan actually.
Got it. Yeah. So here's a question from Akshaya. How did you guys feel about your transition from your routine work style to becoming a digital nomad?
So the for me personally, there was no transition in the sense that
And I think it wouldn't apply for Akshay. I mean, yeah.
so like yeah, I didn't have a traditional transition at all because I didn't work in a corporation
Mm-hmm.
at all. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
once we started, I've been traveling for like 8 years now, like from Chile, Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So that just continued
Mm-hmm.
for me. And
Mm-hmm.
So my first job out of college was a corporate job. We had to wear formals and uh, show up at 9 a.m. every day, and we had to sit till 6, no matter whether we had work or not. And the corporate structure I felt was, I worked there for a few months, but I decided, okay, that is just not for me. I did not like how people were so uh, uptight about things that didn't matter at all, like, okay, what are you wearing, or are your shoes polished, and stuff like that. It felt very much like school. And also HR, never want to deal with HR ever again, or project managers actually. We had a project manager who would just randomly say things like, what is the reason for low productivity? And then we also had team leaders who would give you a chocolate every time your productivity was high or something. It was just very, I didn't like that environment at all. So I decided to work in a law firm,
Mm-hmm.
a little more open, and you could be part of discussions, and not because of your rank or anything or your designation. You could just be involved in work a little more. That's what I enjoyed more. And
so for her also the thing is the transition
so
was the
transition
same.
was actually really easy because
Yeah, but
I didn't like
the
working
thing,
with
and also the thing is like she also worked as remote
yeah
before
yeah
becoming remote. She was remote in law before becoming completely remote.
yeah.
So
So the transition was it
Got it.
was both easy and difficult. So easy in the sense that I just knew that I cannot go to a corporate office in formals ever again. So that part was really easy. But the work routine, to develop a routine by yourself when there's no one to tell you show up in your office by 9 a.m. You have to develop that by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You have to get up, figure out your schedule for the day, and then know that, okay, this is the time that I will work, and this is the designated office in my house that I will work from. So that's something that takes a little while to build, that self discipline that has to come from within. So I feel that is the hard part.
Got it. Got it. So in terms of process, in terms of routine, in terms of time schedules, that would be the difficult part while you transition.
Yeah, especially if you don't really
Got
have like a, like sometimes you might have to stay up in the night for a certain client call with some client who lives in a different country or something, so you have to plan your work day around that. Or something needs to be done urgently, so you need to decide, okay, today I'll wake up early and do this or something like that. So those things are the only motivation is you have to get up and do it. There's no one watching that, okay, she's sitting in office till 6 o'clock or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Got
That I
it.
feel
Yeah.
like that's the reason why most companies hesitate to allow work from home, because work from home is like a way to say just hanging at home doing errands and not really working from home. So that's why I think companies are hesitant, right?
Got it. Perfect. So here's a question from Pallavi. How do you manage your living expenses? What kind of jobs should we look for when we are on run for travel? I think we have just covered this around a while ago. That should definitely answer your question. Yeah. So another question from Pallavi. How did you gather up the courage to leave your regular job? What kind of capabilities should I have to get such jobs for which I can be anywhere in the world?
so
Would
one
you
word
want to add some
here
points here?
about having courage is like planning. Uh, it was we knew we wanted to have this lifestyle and we planned for it. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
come up to us and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're very courageous for doing this and everything." Actually, I feel like there's nothing. It's not about courage. It's about one
Mm-hmm.
having curiosity that your mind is open up enough to go to countries from all over the world to just land somewhere and accept how the things are and move on from there. The second thing is, of course, financial, and having skills to basically confidence in your skills to basically say that okay, I can earn from anywhere. So I feel like courage and boldness is not the right answer.
It's just well planned, calculated risk. Actually, it's a risk to take, but you know that if you plan it well, you can kind of avoid some of the like failures from taking a bad decision. The thing is that we
Got
all
it.
look at it as okay, it's a decision that we made. We planned for it, and then we when we started, we thought okay, we might do it for 1 year, we might do it for 2 years, we might decide that we don't like it and come back. It's okay to change a decision. That's something we are not taught as kids.
Mm-hmm.
That okay, you decided to become a lawyer, now you can't be anything else. Why can't you? Okay, that is a decision you made at that point of time with what facts you knew. So now, with the facts that I know today, I am in a position to take a different decision, and it's okay to change your decision. Like if we decide, okay, this digital nomad life is not for us, if we decide, okay, we want to settle down, have a home, get a dog or something, we know that we can take that decision. It's not like a failure to change your mind. That's something that's I feel very important thing that I learned.
I think that's a very good point, especially, I mean, this transition or options which are available in front of you, it is totally situation based, and you can definitely change it. If at all the situation changes, you would have to change it, right? Yeah,
And also the thing is
got
like
it.
we don't say that okay, if you are not doing the digital nomad life, you suck.
Or you're not doing
That's not
anything worthwhile if you're not traveling.
that's not true. Also, like
That's what Instagram makes you think.
yeah, that's what like the world makes you think, saying that okay, if you're not traveling now, or if you don't do if you don't have our lifestyle, then there's something lacking in you. That's not true. Also, like we know a lot of happy people who are like living in Bangalore, and we have friends. We're still friends with them. We never go there like, oh, you should become a digital nomad. Everyone has their own circumstances and situations. We just had a
Mm-hmm.
circumstance and situation where we could actually think about doing something, having a lifestyle like this, and we could achieve
Mm-hmm.
it. We went for it and we did it. But if you can't, that's
Mm-hmm.
okay too. So
Yeah, it's just it matters what if you're doing what you want to do and if you're happy doing it. That should be the factor for making most decisions. I feel that's it sounds frivolous to say okay, just pursue happiness instead of other things, but like for example, we could be in Bangalore and we could think about building a startup and get funded and make money that way, but then we wouldn't be traveling. So our goal is to just make enough money that is enough for us, have some savings and have some emergency money in case friends or family need it, and then we are happy. We don't have to be multimillionaires or something.
but that
Or
said like if somebody really wants to have this lifestyle, we are ready to help them also.
yeah.
But that's the thing, like it depends upon
Yeah,
what
because
you want.
some people might really enjoy their full-time job in their company or their family life in a particular city, and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
become a digital
We know
nomad.
people who are who have full-time jobs in Bangalore but travel a lot. And
Yeah, like
and
actually,
Oh,
most
wow.
people with
Okay.
full-time jobs travel more than us. Actually,
yeah,
they
like if you ask anyone, like a lot of people here might be surprised that we have only been to 16 countries
in 4 years. Yeah,
in 3 years.
Yeah.
But when if you ask a lot of people, oh, I've been to 25 countries, my current count is at 40. We are not into country counting. We really want to spend time in a
Right.
place.
Right.
So we when you stay in a place for 6 months, of course your number of countries doesn't go up. But if you are into country counting, good for you. You should do that.
Makes sense. When you guys place, understand the culture, understand the cuisines, right? That is the reason you stay long term instead of
Yes.
3 days or 1 week.
Yeah.
That
in
totally
fact,
makes sense. Yeah.
because we don't have a home or anything, it actually gets cheaper the longer you stay because um, you get time to cook at home, you get time to uh, Airbnb rents become shorter the longer you stay, so it's
Cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
cheaper the longer you stay. So
Yeah.
it makes sense, and flight prices, of course, it'll reduce if you stay longer. So that way, we save a fair bit of money.
In South America, it's nice. You don't need a flight there. You can
Just go by
do
road,
land
yeah.
border crossings. So it gets very
Got
cheap
it.
in South America.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yep. So this is from Venki. How do you guys manage the taxes and also how do you guys manage the money for your next store?
So we are still tax residents in India, and we still pay 30%
Mm-hmm.
tax in India, even if we don't stay in India. So
Okay.
like it's been almost 2 years since we are in India, but because we are tax residents there, we pay taxes there. And money for the next tour, I'm thinking that Venki thinks we come back to India after every tour. We don't. We just go to the next country. So it's like
It's one tour.
it's one tour, and it's like
One tour.
managing finances as you would manage like living in anywhere in India.
Got it. Perfect. Yeah. So this is from Niharika and specific to Avi. Yeah. So I am from a technical background. In times like this, when there's a possibility of a recession, what are some tech skills that I could invest in learning to be recession proof in my career?
So let me. Um, there's nothing called recession proof. Uh, uh, the the how the market behaves doesn't depend upon what skill you have or you don't have. Market
Mm-hmm.
behaves on its own; it changes. You could react to that by changing your skill set if it's required. For example, I'm a Ruby developer.
Mm-hmm.
I do most of my programming in Ruby and Rails, which is supposed to be a dead language, but it's not. And everyone is doing JavaScript now. So the market for JavaScript is definitely way bigger than Ruby on Rails. So if you're starting out, I would look into what are the languages where you can get remote gigs if you want to go remote. If you don't want to go remote, then you can pick up a popular technology and learn it, but that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that it will be popular like 5 years from now. So that you have to keep learning. So being recession proof the answer to that is keep learning. You can't learn one thing and just become recession proof. You have to keep learning constantly. That's the only way to have new skills when it's required. So right now, if you're starting out,
Got
I
it.
would suggest if you're interested in front end, go with JavaScript. If you're interested in back end, go with Go. And uh, uh, both aspects, you can get a lot of remote gigs after you are
Okay.
skilled enough in it. Right? To start off, you'll
Okay.
not get remote gigs in it.
Mm-hmm. So, how would you get those gigs? Is it something like you would have to apply on a freelance platforms, or is it through referrals?
I can only and
What
I
would
can
you
only
recommend to Niharika?
basically suggest this in the tech industry, even if it's design or digital
Mm-hmm.
marketing or coding programming. The biggest way to get gigs is to put your work out there, contribute to open source, put your projects up where everyone can see
Mm-hmm.
what you actually do. So that builds trust in
Mm-hmm.
them to give you projects over time. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're starting out, you will not have a portfolio to show.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have only two choices. One, build up your portfolio. The portfolio can be, if you're a programmer, your GitHub profile, where you do a lot of open source contributions. If you're a designer, you will be posting stuff on, what is that? Forgot the name of the platform. Yeah, every aspect
Upwork,
has to,
Fiverr.
yeah, no, even before that, put up the portfolio where you can show off your work, and
Okay, your
then if
Behance.
you want to get into freelancing from that point of time, you have two choices. One is like, as Aditya mentioned, all the online platforms like Upwork and everything. But you have to build up your profile on Upwork to make enough money to sustain yourself for the long run. Initially, no one will give you a project on Upwork, so you're starting from scratch. So my suggestion is, if you're starting from scratch completely, build up your profile and Upwork profile simultaneously, a portfolio and Upwork profile simultaneously. So, and network with people. At the end of the day, for me, all of my projects is because I knew someone. I don't have an Upwork profile. So I didn't go the traditional freelancing way. All my projects is because I was a co-founder and CTO of a startup, and that profile helped me to get more gigs through reference. So people could immediately trust me because they knew I built this. So that's the way to go about it. References, and you have to show what you can do.
And the thing that is that, what's his name?
Yeah, go ahead, Ruchi.
Building
Add in your one.
thing, building. I don't know what that is. It's a tech thing. No, that's what Akash Manohar did.
That's already mentioned. So,
Yeah.
so like open source
Got it.
contributions. Basically, I have friends who have since their college, that is like 8 years, they have been contributing to open source. Open source is a great way to show off your skills
Projects. Okay.
and meet people.
Makes sense. Yeah. Got it. Okay, this is from Niti. Thanks for joining, Niti. This we have covered again during the live. Yeah.
How do you manage to work in a completely different time zone while still managing the full travel schedule? So we travel very slowly, like 2-3 months. We stay in one place, so that way it's not like a crazy travel schedule or anything. And we travel. If we take a flight, we mostly take it on a weekend. So we land there on Sunday, adjust for a day, and then we can get back to work on Mondays if we have to. The time zone thing is, the most countries that we go to are next to each other. Like if we are in Colombia, we'll go to Peru, which is pretty much in the same time zone. Then maybe the next country will be only 1 hour or 2 hours ahead, or something. So that way, it doesn't affect us so much. Except that if you want to make calls to family or clients or something, then time zone is a little thing to keep in mind to adjust. Okay, that what is the time in New York right now if I have to make a call with someone there or something like that. That is the only thing. And working from anywhere and sleeping from anywhere are two skills which I highly recommend you have when you start this journey. Like even if you have a couple of hours in an airport, if your flight is delayed or something, and if the airport Wi-Fi works for you, then you can work from there if you want to.
Yeah, you have to be very flexible with your work hours, basically, and you need to have a job or a gig which allows for that. If you, all my clients are in the US, so I'm in the same time zone as the US now. But that's going to change once I come back to India. But they are okay with it as long as the work gets done.
Got it.
So, yeah, that's a big.
It is just that. Yeah, it is just that the role should provide that flexibility for you to work at your own convenience. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So,
do you suggest homeschooling if a family hopes to live a nomadic lifestyle with kids? Definitely. Actually, my own uncle, who has 3 kids in the ages 2, 4, and 6, is living a semi-nomadic lifestyle where they teach the kids at home. And these kids are some of the smartest kids that you will meet.
Okay.
So I feel like the current understanding of homeschooling is that, okay, maybe you need a school environment and discipline and teachers and other students to become a good citizen when you grow up or something. But it's not really necessary. The school system in many countries is very, very outdated. The way we are learning is it needs a massive update, I feel. So of course, not having kids, I know my opinion might not matter on this, but I feel like I will not change my opinion if I did also. So I feel like, yes, you can definitely have a nomadic life. There's several people who do it. If you just do a quick Google search for nomadic travel bloggers with kids, there's a blog called Why Travel Blog. They used to be nomadic for a couple of years before they settled down with 3 kids. So I believe it's very possible. There are these international schools in many countries in Southeast Asia which allow for kids joining in the middle of the year for 2-3 months and then giving an exam remotely or something. So if you can get started on that early as a child, that works, right?
There is a Indian couple with 2 kids. They're not completely nomadic, but they were nomadic for the last 1 year, where they traveled around South America. One kid is 5 years old, the other kid was 8 months old, and they were traveling around South America. I can tell their Instagram. If you have any questions, you can. I'm sure they are happy to answer. Their Instagram is Affair with World. AFF Affair with World. AFFAIRWITHWORLD. So they are an Indian couple living in Norway, but they took 1 year, I think, 2 years off.
1 kid also.
2 years off, and they traveled South America. They will be the perfect people to answer questions when it comes to.
But their kids were very small, so
perfect.
Once kids grow up, I think school becomes more of a concern, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I'm sure they would have thought more about this and would have more answers about this.
But definitely in Asia, I've seen a lot of homeschooling communities where there are lots of Facebook groups and there are resources for downloading lessons and teaching your kids, and then there are exams and stuff, so you can make sure your kids are not behind.
Got it. Yeah. So here's one more. I think first part of the question is already covered, but the second part seems to be interesting. Have you ever considered getting a tiny home and traveling with your tiny home?
Right now, our tiny home is a suitcase. We have like everything from clothes to kitchen supplies to random things which we feel like we need. Like I have my own mug and everything, and every time I reach a new Airbnb or even a hotel, I have to have tea in my own mug. Don't want to use other mugs. Not because of hygiene or anything. It just feels very like grounding. So tiny home in the sense, if you mean like a van, like a van lifing or something, we would love that. That would be something to do in a big country like Australia or something. That would be amazing.
It's just that we don't know how to drive.
We don't know how to drive.
We'd love to do life, but we don't know how to drive. But I mean, switching to van life will be very easy for us because all we own, everything we own in life fits 2 suitcases. We don't have anything back home.
There'll be no packing or unpacking, so that will be very easy. And if we have a van, maybe we can get a dog also.
Yeah, I know where you're going. Let's learn to drive.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we have a very minimalistic life. All our stuff which we need fits 2 suitcases. We don't own anything else than that. We don't have like storage back in India or something like that. Like everything we need is in 2 suitcases. So we are very flexible with that.
Superb. So here is a question from Shava. Do you guys make plans on how many countries to travel in a year, or is it a spontaneous travel? How did you take to start this nomad travel lifestyle?
It took 2 years to start the nomad's lifestyle. Most of our travel plans are spontaneous in such a way that we don't know how long we will be in a place. So we go to a place, if we like it, we stay for long. We don't like it, we'll stay for a short amount of time and move on. So in that way, it's spontaneous that, okay, the next is when to go to the next destination is spontaneous.
Yeah.
But we have a kind of plan, like 6-month plan in terms of which countries we want to go.
Yeah, we know roughly where we want to go because we have to look at visa also. Like before coming to South America, we knew that we need to have the US visa so that we can enter several countries. There are some things that change. For example, Ecuador has blocked Indian visa for temporarily. So this was before the pandemic. Since last year, Ecuador has blocked Indians from coming. So from Colombia, we were thinking of going to Ecuador, but we decided to just head to Peru instead. And then we were thinking Bolivia, we'll just go for a few days, but then when we landed in La Paz, we really loved it. We ended up spending almost 2 months in Bolivia.
If it would have been 2 months if we had
Nice.
stayed there
Yeah,
and
if you'd stayed, yeah, but
coronavirus.
it was almost 1 month, 20 days.
Yeah.
So in Asia, we used to plan a little bit because Asian visas are for lesser
Shorter.
duration than South American visa countries. So in Asia, we could also visit home a couple of times in a year, or at least twice a year. So because countries are close, we would wherever we were, we would go to Bangkok and come to any Indian city. So that's how we've been to
Okay.
Bangkok like 6, 7 times.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I think last question from the audience. More info about your remote work gig and how do you stay productive outside the 9 to 5 environment? So
Actually,
the second part of the question is something which you can.
it's very possible to stay productive outside a 9 to 5 environment. Research has shown many times that you cannot work for 8, 9 hours a day. You are only productive for 4 hours. In that entire hour, in that entire work day, you can only do actually 4 to 5 hours of deep concentrated work. So if you're trying to just sit in front of your computer and be busy, you might not get a lot done. So that's what we've learned, that uh, focus is very important, and managing your time yourself is very important. Also, uh, outside of a traditional office setting, there's no like office batter or office gossip or any of just
Distraction.
someone's birthday or HR doing some activities or whatever. So I feel like it's more productive to work outside of a 9 to 5 on something you enjoy doing on a daily basis. Of course, you can't enjoy every single aspect of your job, but if you enjoy
Mhm.
50% of it, you're very lucky. So you will be productive if you enjoy it.
Got it.
The
Yeah.
other way to put it is instead of 9 to 5, you have to pick another
Yeah,
work hour, like
yeah,
8 to 12. But there has to be a like time period every day where you when you work.
yeah. And as you have obviously seen, 9 to 5 is just it's just a thing to say, right? 9 to 5 is never really 9 to 5. You're always thinking about work when you're home as well, and work mostly goes on as late as 8 or 9, or sometimes later. Some in some places,
Or it doesn't start till 2.
yeah.
It can
Or
be either way.
on Fridays, you just like, okay, everything's done. Post lunch, there's nothing. And on the day you do a team
Mhm.
outing, yeah, there's no work going to happen.
Good.
So I feel like it's on you how much you feel like you can do in a day, and how you program yourself to be productive.
Got it. Got it. So I think we got another comment. I think this would be the last one. What's your opinion about Estonia e-visa?
You
I
have
think
received.
that gives a lot of flexibility, especially for digital entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah,
If you get Estonia e-visa, that doesn't mean that you have entry to Europe.
yeah,
So that's
Correct.
one of the
This is
biggest
just
biggest things that will the thing is like, yeah, you'll get the e-visa, but you'll not get
mhm,
entry to Europe. So that's a big problem for us because we want entry into the country. So you can get the Estonia e-visa, work with them for a year, and then you will get the European visa. That's a great way to go get entry into Europe if you are planning to be in Europe long term. But
mhm.
for that, you have to go through a lot of administration. You have to open a company. You have to manage money from there and
and the
all those
tax
things.
situation is also not good in Estonia. Like, you'll have to give up a lot of your money.
No, the company tax is 15%,
Yes, but you'll
but
have to. Your money is locked up in Estonia.
that's okay. It's in the European system. But the problem is like you don't have the personal accounts there. You'll only get the company accounts. You're still a tax
Mhm.
resident in India. You have to pay if you take any money out of the country and send it to India, that will be taxed in India. So over a long run, for someone like if we have a legitimate business where we are selling something, we might look
Mhm.
into it. But right now, where we are making money from freelance and we are making money from YouTube, it doesn't make sense to go through the Estonia way because we are spending all that money also. So we'll be double taxed. So it doesn't. So that double taxation you'll end up paying more tax than just getting the money into India.
Got it. Perfect. Give me a second. Yeah. Wow. So this was like a packed session of 2 hours. I definitely didn't expect it to be for 2 hours.
Uh,
Thank you, Avi, and thank you, Ruchi, for joining us. Sorry, I didn't get you, Avi.
I don't know how many people stayed for 2 hours.
Not much, especially in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Saturday night.
Yeah,
It's dinner time.
correct. Yes, that's right. So it was great conversing with you both. I'm sure this conversation would definitely help your viewers who are looking to start with your remote work or digital lifestyle. So everyone who's watching this or watching the recording, make sure that you follow Second Breakfast on YouTube and also follow Ruchika on their YouTube channel, on their Instagram channel for all their travel updates. So let me share. Give me a second. Yeah. So make sure you follow them on Instagram for a lot of behind the scenes, day-to-day updates from Team Second Breakfast.
Yep.
So until next time, Aditya Srishti, Avinash, and Ruchika signing off for today.
Bye.
Thank you, Ruchi, and thank you, Avi.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having us.
Ali.
Bye bye. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, bye bye.